Stahl.
It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts Dave Stahl, Joe Dramisi, and Michael Schwartz will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Dramisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks. Hey, welcome. You are listening to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right. Hey, we are so proud to have John Dillon and the Dillon Law Group as a show sponsor. And did you know Dillon Law is one of the attorneys on the Miller versus Bonita case?
Bonta.
Oh, Bonta. I'm sorry. And if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call our attorney, John Dillon. If you have questions on red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Well, call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. That's John Dillon, specialized in California gun law, 760-642-7150. Or you can visit his website at DillonLawGP.com. And, if you're going to tune in to YouTube live stream, which is rocking and rolling right now, that's at youtube.com/gunownersradio. Hit the like and subscribe button.
Hey, we found out that we have a fan.
We do.
Yep. Joe met him.
Really?
We do, yeah. It was I was recognized from the radio. We had a student yesterday in the concealed carry class we were teaching. Came up to me and said, "Hey, you're Dramisi, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "Hey, I recognize you from the radio." And then he showed me his he had the comfort concealment belt that we did the gear review on a couple of weeks ago. He showed me a leather holster from Simply Rugged that he heard us talk about. And I think he had a Core Essentials belt on him, too. So, David, wanted to thank you for listening. Hopefully you're listening today. And thank you for the feedback. It's nice to know
so what do you think of the show?
An effect. He liked the gear reviews. I don't know what he thought about you guys, but he liked the gear reviews.
Oh, you have a fan. That's what it is. It's not us. That's okay. Mic Drop will have its own.
One day.
All we can do is hope.
Yeah. So Joe and I did a pretty unique shooting social this morning.
Did you? What'd you do?
One of our board members, Jim Miller, who's on the Cajon Valley School Board, really good dude. He's also a soccer coach for, I guess they're 13, 14-year-old girls team?
Yeah, I think it's at 13 because he's been coaching some of them, for 7 years, I think he said.
7 years?
That's what he said, yeah.
So he got the soccer team and the parents to come out, and we did a shooting social. It was amazing. It was cool.
Unusual.
Yeah, it was really amazing. It was very, very cool. And we, I don't know. I didn't even know. I kind of lost count. It was very much herding cats. But yeah,
I was gonna say
we were but we got it all squared away. Some of the lanes had a kid and a parent. Some of the lanes had a kid. Some of the lanes had a parent. But everybody had a good time.
Yeah, it worked out really well. And that's the first one of those I've done in a while. It's been probably a year or so since I've done one of those socials.
So such a large group as well.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a typical group, or at least for the lanes anyway, right? We doubled them up a little bit.
We doubled up. It's unusual for us to double up lanes. Usually, everybody gets their own lane, their own mentor. But with the kids, and the parents, some of them got to share. But it's a pretty well-oiled machine. I mean, even with that kind of chaos, it went pretty smooth.
Yeah, and even adding the little competition part at the end, which I thought we were going to run out of time for, that it all worked well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Got to keep their targets.
Yeah, they got to keep their targets, and
how important it is for a kid to keep his target.
I wonder. Yeah. Now I'm kind of wondering how many did. I was a little kind of caught up in the process.
See, and Joe autographed them.
Well, see, and that's what made me think of it, because I saw you ripping them down, and then I thought, ooh, because I started to tear mine down. I thought, oh, maybe this guy will want that. And actually, my parent was more excited about keeping his target than his daughter
than
was.
The kid? But, it's funny.
Well, there's something about it's like a trophy.
And this was a group of 13-year-old girls. I don't know if any of them. I think maybe a couple of them started out on 22s. There's this thing. Everybody out there thinks that I honestly think it's left over from the 80s when everybody had a 38 revolver and a 44 revolver, and everyone said, "Oh, you got to start out on a 22." I honestly, I can't think of many other people out there who have watched more people shoot for the first time than me because of these shooting socials.
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds. I've watched hundreds, hundreds of shooting socials, meaning thousands of
people,
brand
yeah.
new shooters. And 99.9% of them started out on a 9mm. And there's still kind of this, I'm going to call it a myth. There's this belief, this myth that you have to start out on a 22. I watched, 10, 15, 13-year-old girls start out on a 9mm this morning, and it was just fine. It was just fine. So, I mean, if you're particularly nervous or, had a traumatic experience, something like that, you got to start out on a 22. I get it. But I think for the most part, start people out on a 9mm. They're doing just fine.
Jump in the pool. Jump in the pool.
Get in the deep end.
Yeah, what the heck? You got people around you that'll help you out.
That's right.
So how was the general consensus as far as startled, scared?
They loved it. It was nothing was. I mean, it was
didn't phase them.
Oh no, it was really, really great. It was great. And between that and our NotMESD, and I don't. By the way, last week we just went over a milestone. Over 400 women through our NotMESD program.
That well? Congratulations.
And
to
a lot of it,
Desi and her team.
Yeah, and a lot of it's thanks to a PBS story that PBS came out and interviewed Wendy and some of the other folks that went through it. And we actually have a clip. Brendan, play the clip from the NotMESD on KPBS.
What we're doing is leveraging our expertise as gun owners to be able to help increase women's ability to stop domestic violence and sexual assault.
Wendy Hauffen, the director of NotMESD, says the program stemmed from her own experience.
I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. There's just so many questions to ask. Even figuring out what questions to ask was really complicated.
Hauffen says the program sparked even more interest during the pandemic.
We definitely saw a huge increase during the pandemic. Women who were on the fence about gun ownership realized that they needed to be able to take their safety into their own hands.
The program is so popular that spots to participate get filled up to 6 months in advance.
Well, just being a woman nowadays and just feeling like I need that extra source of protection.
Janine Abdullah has been wanting to buy a gun for a while. After hearing about NotMESD, she decided it was time to learn more about firearms.
More women should take more steps to protect themselves and be at least comfortable being around firearms. And I don't think nowadays enough women are.
So one of the big mistakes that our side, gun owners, Second Amendment groups, etc., have made over the last, I'm going to say, 30 years is they've kind of, written off media and said, we're not going to, the slanted media, we never get a fair shake, wah, wah, wah. And that's why you don't see a whole lot of, or haven't until San Diego County gun owners came along, didn't see a lot of pro-Second Amendment stories on the 6 o'clock news, in your local town. That was KPBS. That ran on KPBS and NPR. No and we got we literally dozens of women saw that story and signed up for NotMESD. And if you work hard and present your message well and are a professional political organization, that's what you can do.
And don't budge from your cause.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
No matter what that media outlet wants you to say or do, you don't if it doesn't fit the narrative.
Got to have a backbone.
I love it.
Well, got to have a backbone. Yeah, mine's missing a disc at the L4, L5, but I still have a backbone.
Yes, you do. Joe, you got one?
Mine's still there.
Are you practicing your signature now? Because since you're going to become a star.
No, not really.
Start working on it. Start working on it.
But check out so we just talked about two things: shooting socials and NotMESD. Go to our website. Under the shooting social section, if you want to sign up to participate in a shooting social, somebody that needs to for first-time gun owners, or if you know any women who need to learn how, they want to own a gun, they want training, they want a CCW, and they want help, go to our website and then NotMESD. So on the line, we have the legendary Massad Ayoob. How are you, sir?
Oh, not legendary, but old. How are you?
Good.
That's legendary.
Thank you so much for being on the show. It's always a pleasure. You've done the show a number of times. Truly, if there, I think I said this last time you were on the show too. If there were a Mount Rushmore of Second Amendment and gun trainers, I think you'd be the first head carved, sir. I really appreciate everything you've done.
Well, it's kind of you to say so.
Bet you don't hear that one a lot, huh?
So the theme is Hollywood, and we've been talking a lot about Hollywood and different movies and pro Second Amendment and some of the myths and what would you say a top myth about guns is pushed by Hollywood and Hollywood movies?
Oh, you have the myth that the trigger will pull the finger, that having the gun will make you find an excuse to use it. You have the myth that, in the old days, old Hollywood, of course, you would fire the shot, and after the single shot, the intended target would clutch themselves and swoon without a drop of blood being spilled at any point. And then by the 60s and 70s, you had, the Sam Peckinpah genre that a pistol bullet was going to send chunks of gore flying out of your body. Dirty Harry's 44 Magnum would pick you up and throw you through a plate glass window. And, of course, you could fire 27 shots out of a six-shooter. Doc Holliday and Tombstone could get 3 shots out of a double-barrel shotgun.
I remember that.
And we never did quite get the count right, but he got somewhere around 20 to 24 shots out of 2 6-shot revolvers. The myths continued, and very, very little showed reality. Never once did Dirty Harry have to write a report over one of his shootings. Never once was he put on administrative leave after a shooting, as any officer even then routinely would have been. So society tells you that you can walk around on the street, shoot people, and get patted on the back. So the Hollywood tells you that you can walk into a gun shop or a pawn shop, lay $100 on the counter, and walk out with a gun with no paperwork or background check done. And the only time good guys, other than cops, shoot bad guys is when they've turned vigilante, like a Death Wish movie or The Punisher or something. So
I really...
Hollywood has not been positive to Second Amendment since the movie The Patriot.
I really, truly think that, it's a very good point that you bring up about the consequences, and I think that's kind of a maybe a subtle myth, or an indirect myth that Hollywood has perpetuated. Every gun owner I know takes the idea of lethal force extremely seriously. It's not something that anybody ever wants to do. They don't look at a firearm as an offensive weapon. They look at it as a defensive option. And the fact that Hollywood is so cold and callous when it comes to using a firearm to kill somebody, whether it's a good guy, bad guy, whatever, I think is probably one of the more damaging myths that they've created.
Well, I used to tell people walk into a video store. Today I tell people walk up to a red box and count how many of the movie jackets illustrate someone holding a gun, often improperly with their finger on the trigger when it shouldn't be. And it makes the gun look like a bigger part of life than it is. They used to say that by the time you're 21 in America, you have seen 18,000 people fake getting killed on TV and movie screens. And another magazine reversed that figure and said 21,000 by the time you're 18. And they essentially make it look like a more frequent thing than it is. They don't show the gravity of it. They don't show the enormity of it. That even if you kill the most evil human being on earth, you're going to see the faces of his family when you go to court over it. You're going to have to look them in the eye and know that what you did was something that had to be done. You're going to need to realize that not every bad guy out there is a stereotype from a Charles Bronson movie, some shaven-headed Mongo with a 666 tattooed on his forehead. And there was one of our great instructors back in the day used to talk about the criminals like mythical creatures. He was fond of saying, and these goblins, these ogres, no, I won't call them men. And the first time I heard that lecture, I asked myself, where does this guy patrol? The Enchanted Forest? If you want to compare the archetypal criminal to some kind of a mythical being, make it a werewolf. because most of them, when they are at home, they have loved ones that love them as much as your loved ones love you, and who love their family just as much, and they hide that part of their life from them. Your classic example is the Trayvon Martin case that the general public still thinks was an innocent child skipping down the street with a box of Skittles who was gunned down by a racist. And the reality of it, as anyone who actually watched the trial knew, was that this kid had gone bad early. His parents didn't. They knew there were problems. That's why the mom had sent him up from southern Florida to live in central Florida with his dad. It was like tough love. It was like she was saying, look, I can't do anything with a kid, can you? But clearly they did not know just how deeply the young man had gotten in a thug life. And then after his death, when it served certain political interests and certain financial interests for certain lawyers, the whole meme of the sweet innocent child came up. And while the shooting of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman was correctly perceived by the jury as clear-cut self-defense, the great majority of the public still seems to believe that Zimmerman got away with murder. And the public does not understand that that decent young man, a 27-year-old kid who he and his wife had volunteer mentored underprivileged black children, for God's sake, prior to the shooting, is now unemployable, and members of his family literally live in hiding because of the death threats 9 years after the shooting.
Yeah, and that's part, I think, with the with the misrepresentations from Hollywood and the entertainment industry that build that kind of stereotype. And you were talking about the gravity of that sort of thing before, and one of the other things I notice in movies and TV shows, cop shows, things like that, where someone will get shot, the hero gets shot or something like this, and he's back in the next scene with a little sling on his arm and everything's wonderful and they're yucking it up. And most people, I think, that get shot with handguns in this country survive, mostly because of our EMS system, I think. But you're never really right. You get shot in the arm for most people, I think, and it never really recovers completely. And they kind of play that off, and I think that's a really damaging misrepresentation that you see a lot in the movies and entertainment.
Oh yeah, it truly is. And of course, you see in the movies, etc., every AR-15 is fully automatic, just like in the anti-gun video demonstrations. And the general public seems to believe that it really is the semi-automatic AR-15 is a weapon of war, when in fact there's not a single nation on earth that issues it to the rank-and-file troops in semi-automatic form.
Well, that and the sparking bullets too, because my bullets never spark when they hit things. And on TV, they all spark.
You have to train them. You have to train them to do that.
It's not something you often see.
So that is a very real-world example of consequences. What are some other real-world examples of consequences of the misconceptions of Hollywood? Some of these myths that we talked about. I guess, if someone was listening and they weren't pro or against, and they asked, so what? So what's the big deal if Hollywood gets it wrong? What is a real-world consequence of the misconceptions that they perpetuate?
Well, one of those real-world consequences is your jury is going to be made up of 12 ordinary people from the community. If the other side has done their job on voir dire, the jury selection process, sometimes pronounced voir dire, they will have screened out as much as possible gun enthusiasts, perhaps even gun owners. So you'll have a dozen people who all they know about guns and self-defense is what they've seen on TV. The older folks who often are more able to serve on a long trial, as most shooting trials do run long, those older folks like me grew up watching a diet of Lone Ranger on TV where they would shoot the gun out of the bad guy's hand and wonder, well, why couldn't you have shot the gun out of his hand, especially if you're supposed to be good with a gun? You obviously had malice in your heart and shot to kill.
I think
they often, because today probably more than ever because of the increase in the number of drug-fueled attackers, some of these people can take bullet after bullet after bullet and keep attacking until finally one of those bullets short circuits the central nervous system or shatters skeletal support and they fall to the ground. Yet people are conditioned to believe from television that one shot, two shots at most are going to make anybody swoon onto their back. Any trauma surgeon can tell you that you could blow someone's heart out of the body, and if their brain is fully oxygenated, they can continue violent, purposeful physical activity for 18 seconds or more before there's not enough blood or oxygenated blood in the brain to sustain consciousness.
Which is a lot. 18 seconds is an enormous amount of time in a defensive situation or during a lethal attack. I mean, it's not 18 seconds doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're, like I said, facing a lethal attack or running a radio show, you know that 18 seconds is a lifetime. So we're talking with Massad Ayoob. We're actually going to go to do a commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of the myths that are pushed by Hollywood and what we can do to combat the misconceptions. We're talking with nationally renowned trainer Massad Ayoob, and we're talking about some of the misconceptions perpetuated by Hollywood, which is a theme for our show this month. And, we recognize that some of the inaccuracies that you see in movies, it's just entertainment. But the reality is this entertainment creates culture, and culture can work for or against you. And we're talking about some of the ways that the culture created by Hollywood, when it comes to gun owners, has worked way against us. Massad, has anything worked for us? Is there a movie out there or a theme or anything? Has any part of this actually benefited sane, trained, law-abiding gun owners?
There aren't many. You'll find the occasional movie where the victim is being stalked and they're able to shoot back. There was one thing I enjoyed with the Terminator movies, that an armed citizen was able to stop the unstoppable robot long enough to save lives. The most recent of the Halloween movies, I think it was, with Jamie Lee Curtis, ended with her having become an armed citizen and effectively using a firearm to defend herself and her family. But overwhelmingly, the image it projects is negative, simply because Hollywood, as we all know, is dominated by those of left-wing persuasion. And I think one of the curses of our society today is identity politics. People who've never looked at a particular issue will sort of check and say, well, let's see, do I identify as progressive? I do. Let me check. I'm progressive. I must be anti-gun. Therefore, I'm anti-gun. And really, most of the people who are anti-gun will tell you the AR-15 is, a weapon of war. Interestingly, President Biden just said, well, people with AR-15s can't take over a government anyway. So it's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, right? One or the other, right? It's either a weapon of war or, it's useless against a war.
Our F-15s.
Yeah, one of the two. Do you think the Biden administration is the most anti-second? I haven't had a chance to do a whole lot yet, but do you think that...
Oh, without question. Without question.
Yeah, they're the most anti-Second Amendment administration imaginable, and that includes Clinton, who actually passed the assault weapons ban. I mean, they're going after guns aggressively. At least their rhetoric right now is.
Oh, I did, and remember Joe Biden was one of the ones who pushed that through back in the early 1990s.
Right. Yeah, that was his baby.
Every single study of the decade when that was federal law showed that it had virtually no effect on reducing crime.
Nor has the assault weapons ban in California.
When Obama was president and Biden was vice president, the study done by CDC showed virtually no impact would accrue from gun bans or magazine bans. The simple reality being we're talking about criminals. Criminals, by definition, are lawbreakers. The terms are literally synonymous. You're going to stop them from accessing guns by passing another lesser law for them to break when they're already planning to commit murder or even mass murder. It's ludicrous. A child should be able to figure that out.
Now, do you think, going back to Hollywood, do you think that a lot of the writers and directors, people making these films, do you think it's a conscious effort that, hey, we really want to villainize gun owners and we really want to make guns look horrible, or do you think it's really just more about, drama and selling tickets, or what?
There are elements of both. I think many of them will tell you that they're doing a public service by demonizing guns, and many of them probably genuinely believe that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So how do we combat the misconceptions? What do we do? What's a functional thing?
In the end, with truth, and because none of us can be movie producers, the truth that we can get across is call-in radio shows in your community, writing careful, reasonable letters to the editor for your local newspapers, both print medium and online, and basically at every opportunity, making a comment and saying, look, here is the truth, here is the documentation, here's where you can find out the reality. Look up the CDC study. Do a Google search for Crime Prevention Research Center, founded by Dr. John Lott. It's an absolute cornucopia of validated research that shows the inefficacy of gun bans. You would find the same at Second Amendment Foundation at saf.org. The history of this is that, you had an illegal 15-round magazine in the state of New York. Each 15-round magazine, if you went on vacation, let's say to the Poconos, and missed that you had an unloaded 15-round magazine somewhere in the trunk of your car, and it was discovered after an auto accident or something, that single magazine would be a felony and would make you a felon for the rest of your life. Two of them would be two separate felonies. You had a criminal who had as many as he wanted. The magazines, the AR-15, the conventional AR-15 in an assault weapon state like New York, where the gun has to be modified so it's no longer really an AR-15 to own one, those are the first things that are plea bargained away when actual criminals go into the criminal justice system. You can't plea bargain it away because there is no lesser offense to owning it. And ironically, you had no criminal intent. You performed no actual crime per se. You had no mens rea, that is, no intent to commit a crime, no level of negligence so gross that it rose to a culpable standard. Yet you become de facto a criminal. But when we see atrocities like Parkland or Sandy Hook in the newspapers, it's human nature to say we've got to do something. And right next to we've got to do something is we've got to blame someone. Well, we can't blame the poor criminals because the current progressive agenda, as we're seeing in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Chicago, is that, criminals are victims of society. So therefore, in Chicago, they're literally bonding out murder suspects on personal recognizance.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's insane. Now, this is a big question, and it goes back to culture and maybe a little less about the movie industry. But what are there like, Joe? Like 20 million CCWs in the country, didn't you? Quote that. So about 20 million.
Over that.
Mas, what if there were, there's 350 million. What if there were 200 million CCWs in the country? What if 200 million Americans bought a gun, got training, got their CCW, and carried everywhere they went? If you had to do a 2-minute analysis, 3-minute analysis on that, what would the country actually look like with that amount of protection? Maybe that's a slanted way of asking the question. But if 200 million people,
I can tell you there would be more body bags with criminals in them instead of victims. There would be
I think that quote right there is that should, I don't know, that should be embroidered on a throw pillow or something. I mean, that's say that one more time. There would be more body bags filled with
and victims in body bags.
I think that you just summarized. I just asked you to do a 3-minute analysis. You just did it in one sentence. I mean, that's really what it is. But keep going.
Well, if you think about it, it's simple biology 101. criminals, particularly in crimes against the person, armed robbery, rape, assault, and murder, are predatory crimes. The nature of the predator across the mammalian world, including us, including our species, is that predators seek prey. Predators do not pounce other predators unless they're fighting for turf or fighting for a mate. They seek something that cannot fight back and cannot harm them. Okay, if they talk about the early bird gets the worms. When I was a young patrolman, I had a very wise young sergeant who said, if worms had 45s, early birds would leave them alone. And that is basically a truth. They are not looking to get shot. They're not looking for combat. You do get the rare one that wants to die in a blaze of glory, and they have to be accommodated or the intended victim dies. But by and large, they are seeking a helpless victim.
So do you think with 200 million armed, trained, CCWs out there, and I picked 200 million out of a hat, whatever. But if we had a significantly larger population of people who are able to defend themselves, were trained and had the tools to protect themselves when they leave the house, do you think the violent crime rate would drop after 5 years, 10 years?
Oh, I don't think there's any question that it would.
But what is that foreign? What's that country? Is it Switzerland or someplace over there where everybody is assigned a gun once they become of age?
Not everybody, but every male of military age and every female who opts for it
Where is that?
issued a true assault rifle, a fully automatic weapon, a SIG Sturmgewehr, and is taught how to use it.
And how high is their crime rate?
When I was in Switzerland, virtually every village had a rifle range, just like today you'd see every village has a baseball park in America. It's really a strongly encouraged national sport over there. They have shooting tournaments that they call Schützenfests. It is probably the lowest crime nation in all of Europe. Mm-hmm. And most of the Swiss cantons, if you are legal to own a firearm, you're legal to carry one. And when I was over there, the cops told me really the only homicides they generally see on the street are drug dealers killing each other, other drug dealers over drug turf.
Well, we talked. You mentioned earlier identity politics, and I got to tell you, I don't fight it. Okay, if you're telling me that your particular group, your community, whether it's ethnic or gender, whatever it is, if you're telling me that you're oppressed, okay, great, I believe you. But let's get you the tools to help you fight back against that oppression. And I think the most effective tool for self-defense is a firearm. We're talking with Massad Ayoob. Appreciate you so much being on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Massad.
Yeah, well, the Biden administration came out with a document and basically saying, hey, here's what we're going to do to stop criminals from doing criminal things. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, they didn't really fall back on a lot of the usual talking points and ridiculousness of some of the gun control stuff, which I believe is because they're just a few months in. Midterms are right around the corner. It's their first. 4 years. So, but here's what they did say. Here's what they're trying to do. Here's what their comprehensive strategy is trying to do. They want to stem the flow of firearms used to commit violence, including by holding rogue firearms dealers accountable for violating federal laws, support local law enforcement with federal tools and resources to help address summer violent crimes.
Is that the law enforcement that you're defunding? Those are the ones you're going to support with the federal tools?
Yeah, and only the summer violent crimes. If you're doing it in the winter.
Oh, the winter's okay? Oh, well, shoot.
Invest in evidence-based community violence interventions, expanding summer programming, employment opportunities, and other services, sports for teenagers and young adults, and help formerly incarcerated individuals successfully re-enter their communities. Joe, what did you think? Did you read this document?
No, I have not. I try not to upset myself if I don't have to. I read enough of it researching articles.
Well, what do you think of the plan?
Again, it's one of the things that's interesting is again, like you mentioned, they're coming up on, next year they'll be campaigning again for the 2022 election.
Right.
So the more outrageous stuff you've got to push now, because come the end of the year, they're going to have to kind of readjust and pretend to be more toward the center a little bit.
Yeah.
So they can go through and do their campaigning and all that stuff. So they're kind of in a hurry to get this stuff through. But I mean, that was the points that you read were just kind of, almost like bland or milquetoast kind of things. There was no "we're coming for your guns" kind of stuff in there that I've seen. So they may be holding back on that right now.
Well, that first one, stem the flow of firearms used to commit violence, including by holding rogue firearms dealers accountable for violating federal laws.
Well, rogue firearms dealers are a major problem. I mean, we have a lot of rogue firearms dealers here in San Diego.
Can you define rogue?
And we have firearms dealers here, but
well, would it make so the perception, if you're outside of the bubble, is that this is some criminal firearms dealer who's just offloading firearms
out of his trunk.
to MS-13 and the Bloods and the Crips and everybody. Here you go. The reality is, if you dig deep, they don't dot an I or cross a T on their paperwork and they pull their license.
Well, see, yeah, and that's the same kind of, and again, it's that kind of fluff stuff. It's like the gun show loophole. You throw the stuff out here that sounds like a big deal, and again, contributed to, from the Hollywood kind of stuff that we were talking about.
Right.
You throw the stuff out there and you say it often enough, it grows legs. It becomes, okay, people believe that.
Is that like root cause?
And root cause. Yeah, Kamala Harris went to go look for the root. She went for the root cause at the border. That's why she was down there.
It's to the point where I hate that phase now.
Somebody said the root cause was back in the White House. Should have stayed there. That's where the problem is.
Well, I got to tell you, the ATF is a predatory agency. They're anti-gun, and they go after people that aren't career criminals and aren't trying to cause crime. And I will say that all day long. I was at a meeting last year, and you're not going to tell me that I know an ATF guy and he's pro Second Amendment. Well, his job's not.
Yeah, right.
His job's not, and I'll say it all day long. Every ATF agent I've ever met, needs to go jump in a lake. They're not a good agency. It is a predatory agency against dealers. I was at a meeting last year where the federal district prosecutor said, "Hey, we want to try to, we're trying to stop firearms from getting into the hands of the drug cartels." I don't want the drug cartels to have firearms. I run a pro Second Amendment, organization. I don't want them to illegally obtain and use firearms. So I was listening. Okay, well, what's next? And they went on the rest of the meeting to talk about how they were going to use federal law to go after people who were trying to obtain off-roster pistols in California. And, listen, the drug cartel doesn't care if they have a Gen 5 Glock or a Gen 3 Glock. That was absolutely not true. So even the disconnect between, the prosecutor, the federal prosecutor was the Trump administration, and the ATF was, kind of off on their own. Talk about rogue. They were kind of off on their own island. They just wanted to prosecute people for wanting, like I said, Gen 5 Glocks or, normal firearms that the rest of the country could have. And they were excited about arresting these people.
But isn't that an easier route to travel than going after the criminal?
My impression was it was probably an easier route, but my impression was they're predators. These ATF agents don't like firearms, don't like you having them having firearms. And the more little little X's they can put
on the wall.
The more they rise up. There was one guy in particular. He used to run the local sub-state. I don't know what they're called. Local office here in San Diego. Now he's running basically all Southern California. He ran for judge at one point and tried to convince the gun, successfully convinced many people in the gun community that he was pro Second Amendment, saying, "Hey, look, I work here at ATF, so you want me on the bench because I know what's good and what's bad." He's a predator. He's a predator. He doesn't like you having guns. He doesn't like gun shops. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely adversarial to him. He's not simply some law enforcement guy who wants to make the world safe. No, absolutely not. And I don't, he's probably not listening. We actually tried to get him on the show. maybe we should try a little bit harder. But this gives people like him, this plan that Biden's putting out, gives people like him, empowerment to go after people that are just trying to make a living. And we're talking about people that are running gun shops that are just trying to make a living. Now, if somebody's doing something dishonest and they're arming bad people, and okay, story. Great, but how many of those could there possibly be? There's no study in the world that shows that that's an enormous problem. Although this is the backbone of their initiative, it's not the backbone of their initiative. No. What it is it's a de facto harassment of firearms owners by getting rid of firearms dealers.
Well, gun stores right here in San Diego are under the most, the largest microscope you could ever imagine. They can't even hiccup without an FTA guy down or the police down to find out what they're doing. So how could you have a rogue gun store? I mean, that's just...
Again, it's the mythology that you hear, because this is actually a good lead into the article that I did this week anyway. Because, when they talk about abolishing agencies, if there's one agency that should be abolished...
ATF.
Probably, because, if you look at their mission, because I included their mission statement. If you go to their website, the ATF mission, it says, the ATF protects the public from crimes involving firearms, explosives, arson, and the diversion of alcohol and tobacco products, regulates lawful commerce in firearms and explosives, and provides worldwide support in law enforcement, public safety, and industry partners. Now, what in there cannot be done by the FBI, by local law enforcement?
And what in there has to be done? There's a couple of things in there that really don't have to be done.
Well, that's what I'm saying. How much is the unlawful transfer of tobacco products? Is that a big problem in this country?
It shouldn't be. Why is...
Do I need a federal agency to deal with that?
How old is that mission statement? That's probably the key.
It's up on their... I don't know when they wrote it. It's up on their website right now.
Probably during Prohibition and...
But I want to make clear that this isn't hyperbole. This isn't someone who's just making claims uneducated. I'm somebody I'm somebody who's been in the meetings. I'm somebody who's heard the stories and been there when gun shops are not just getting their hands slapped, but being threatened to be put out of business for some minor paperwork discrepancy. It's not even what I would consider a violation. Like I said, they're not purposely arming criminals.
Well, it's like you said, if they forget to put a comma,
or something minor.
Yeah, it's right there.
And you could legitimately make the argument that they spend a lot more time pursuing law-abiding gun owners than they do pursuing criminals or people that are using guns to actually do other things like that.
Yeah, normally law-abiding, people that aren't career criminals. That's really what we're the idea is, and what we hope is that ATF is going after career criminals. And if that were the case, I don't know if we'd be having this discussion right now. But the reality is ATF goes after non-career criminals on a regular and aggressive basis. And that's wrong. That's wrong. If a gun shop, fills out Section 7 incorrectly, 5 times, because they thought it was, and shutting them down, that they're not career criminals. That's not solving a problem. That's not stopping people from getting hurt.
It's predatory.
It's predatory. And I'm here to say the ATF is predatory, and the people that work for them, especially the guy in charge in Southern California, is a problem. And he's not somebody. I'm sure there are a lot of anti-gun zealots that think it's just fine because they think we're all evil. Sure. But the reasonable folks out there, the gun owners and even people that aren't gun owners but are reasonable people, would be shocked if they saw what was really going on, if they knew what was really going on with the ATF.
Who is David Chipman, and why should I care?
There you go. That is this week's blog article. So David Chipman is the Biden administration's nominee to head the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or the ATF, or the AFT, as Joe Biden calls it. That's the nominee, and currently they've gone through committee in the Senate, and he's made it out of committee on a split. I think I saw a 10-10 vote. I saw 11-11 vote. But it was along party lines, but he's out of committee, and now it goes to the full Senate for consideration. So, again, that's who he is. Why should you care about that? So one of the things, we were talking on the last segment a little bit about the ATF, and just to back up a bit, it's, this David Chipman is, to to be generous, I guess, is an anti or gun control activist. I guess that's a kind way to say what he actually is. And it should not be surprising that the Biden administration would nominate someone like that to head ATF. The thing that we'd mentioned in the last segment, I think I called the Biden administration the most anti-Second Amendment administration we've probably ever seen in the country. And I said that in last week's article when I wrote about the governors fighting back. I reiterated it again in this week's article, and Massad Ayoob confirmed the opinion.
I heard that
a little while ago. So it shouldn't be surprising that they put a gun control person there at the head, or they try to put a gun control person there. And one of the things, if you're not clear on how the Democratic Party and the left views the Second Amendment and gun control, and I mentioned this last week too, Tucker Carlson did a great 12-minute piece on how the Democratic Party views gun control and what they do. And I put the link in the article, and if you haven't looked at it, it's definitely worth 12 minutes of your time. But he goes through that, and one of the points that Carlson makes is, when there's discussions between the left and the right, normally, even if you completely disagree with the other side's position, you can usually understand and say, okay, I can see why they're saying that. I disagree with it. I think it's wrong, but I understand what they're saying. And Carlson makes the point that that gun control is not like that. With gun control, virtually everything they say from the Democratic Party is untrue. And it's provably untrue. It's not an opinion that, okay, it might be true, might not be true. It's factually untrue. And they know that, and that's different from how we do other things. So it's interesting to see that, and it's well worth looking at Carlson's video. So we talked about, I mentioned the ATF's mission there in the last segment. So regarding firearms, again, it's something we talked about in the last segment too. It seems like the ATF expends more energy, more resources going after, law-abiding gun owners for minor things than they do going after criminals that are actually using firearms to commit crimes. So brings us back to, okay, why is David Chapman such a bad choice or something that we should be aware of? And actually is a bad choice. I'm going to run through just some considerations here. But I was saying that he got out of the committee on a straight-line party vote, so it was pretty much split between Democrats and Republicans. They're expecting in the full Senate to be the same kind of thing, and even the usual, again, generously saying moderate Republicans, like Susan Collins from Maine, for instance, has come out and said she can't support this guy. She's talked to her constituents, she's talked to people from Maine, and she can't support him. And she's one of the handful that you would expect on the Republican side to, for whatever reason, to vote for this guy. But it looks like, pretty much the Republicans are going to stick together and not vote to confirm him. If one of the moderate Democrats goes over, like Joe Manchin or something like that, we may not have this guy. But it's going to be a tough fight in the Senate. And again, one of the reasons I think he's extremely dangerous now is because David Chipman, we'll talk a little bit about his history, and he's not just an extremist. I mean, he's a lunatic.
Yeah.
And he's a lunatic among lunatics. He's like a lunatic's lunatic. Yeah. I mean, he stands out even among those people. And, he's a 25-year career ATF guy, which, again, is not necessarily a bad thing. He was a field agent at the Waco operation with the Branch Davidians, which, a lot of people consider one of the biggest failures, or maybe the biggest failure in law enforcement in this country's history. Where they used an overly aggressive thing to really go after some people, for firearms-related stuff. And they ended up killing 76 people, including 25 children, and they lost a couple of ATF agents. And again, he was there then. He was not in a command position, so, I mean, you can't really hold that against him so much. What you can hold against him is he still defends that to this day, that was a good thing. And he makes some bizarre claims where the lunatic thing comes in. He still claims that that the Branch Davidians fired 50 caliber rifles at helicopters and shot down 2 Texas Air National Guard helicopters. That never happened. No helicopters were shot down. They never recovered any 50 caliber rifles there. And he knows this. He was there, but yet he uses that as an argument to support the gun control arguments. He believes he stated that AR-15s should be treated as the same as machine guns in this country. Machine guns are effectively banned in this country. I mean, people can get them, but you've got to go through a really rigorous process, and it's very, very limited. So for the most part, they're banned. He believes that, or he actually suggested in an interview that people that fail background checks should be arrested on the spot. He says that's a way to prevent crimes before they actually happen. He claims to have looked at data saying that people that fail background checks actually went on to commit crimes later, which, again, that, we don't do that in this country. We don't arrest people for crimes that they might possibly commit sometime in the future. And so this is kind of the way he thinks. And he even in a 2012 MSNBC interview, he stated that he believed the Secret Service should be unarmed. So this is the kind of thinking there. And that's not even rational. I mean, that's not even crazed anti-gun stuff. I don't know what that is. The the other thing too is there was a clip. If you watch
what does that even mean?
Well, what I'm saying is, again, he stands out as a lunatic, even among really odd fringe people.
Well, did you hear how he was when John Kennedy from Louisiana asked him to define an AR?
Yeah, he refused to define an AR.
No, it's not that he refused it; he couldn't.
Well, he threw it back on them. He said, "Well, it's not." He said, "It's up to you guys to define what."
And
that
they turned
means.
around and he says, "No, I asked you to define it." And he said,
he wouldn't do it.
He used the term.
Says he couldn't.
And and that's, like I said, this is the guy that you want to head the ATF. Well, anyway,
hey, that's the first time the music startled him.
So that's good. So go ahead and read the article. You'll see all that other stuff.
Where do you find it?
It's sdcgo.org/blog. It's on our blog page. Okay, what I've got is a inside the waistband holster from Bravo Concealment. Actually, this is the inside the waistband holster combo, because you've got a holster and then you've got a mag pouch that comes with it. And it's really, actually, I was going to use Melissa's method here. I was going to try to get a banana for my holster, and I was thinking of plantain for the mag pouch.
But you end up eating them both.
I didn't make it to the store, so it didn't work out for me. But I would use a piece of plastic shaped like a gun, but I can't. I'm not allowed to do that. So you just have to use your imagination here. So the Bravo Concealment holster, inside the waistband version, and then the mag pouch that comes with it. So talk about the holster first. The holster is nice and compact. It's really small. This is the holster I was using with the Comfort Concealment belt that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. Which was really handy. The Comfort Concealment belt was something that went on. It was intended for when you're dressed in things where you don't have a belt, so where you're wearing sweats or shorts or something like that. And I used this holster with that belt, and it worked perfectly. The holster, you can see, is really compact. It's small. There's not much to it. The only thing I would say with it too, and it grabs the gun really well. This is sized for a Glock 19, which is what I carry. It's a nice positive click when you put it in there, so you know it's in there, and it holds it really well. There's two clips, and these clips are, again, kind of the plastic clip. I don't want to say plastic. I forget what the material is on here now. It's a nice kind of heavy-duty plastic, I guess. If I was going to say one thing that I was concerned with was with the plastic. I think I like the metal clips a little bit better. But Bravo Concealment's got a lifetime warranty on this, so if these things did fail over time, I'm sure they'd replace them. But I mean, I saw no indication of that or anything. They grabbed my belt really nicely. They stayed right exactly where it's supposed to be. Very easy to put on, very easy to take off. The only other minor thing too is if you look at the back of this, again, it's the hard plastic on the back, kind of a little bit of sharp edge here. And because this is inside the waistband, this part of it is up against your body. So it works best, I found, with another shirt on underneath of it. So even if you're wearing a T-shirt, a thin, like, Under Armour shirt or something like that on the back works fine with this. So we have the holster part of it. The other part here is the mag pouch. And the version that I have here is set up for outside the waistband, so you can see the belt loops back here. Works very well. The other thing, too, and I should mention on the holster, if you look at the holster from the edge, you can see it's kind of canted in. and it works really well with concealment. It actually pulls the holster back into your body, so it conceals very well. There's really no printing or anything with it, which I thought was really nice. You have the same kind of curved shape on the mag pouch. So I like to carry outside the waistband anyway. So when I tried the mag pouch, I had it on my opposite side, on my left side on the hip, and it conceals very well. It works very well. The other option you have with this holster is you can put these things together and wear them as a unit together. So you would take the smaller clip off. There's two Phillips screws in the back. So you take the smaller clip off, take the belt clips off of the mag pouch, and then what happens is you'll move the mag pouch over here. You'll mount the mag pouch, so the two screws that are holding the smaller clip now hold the mag pouch. The smaller clip moves to the outside here, so you could wear it as a unit, which I tried. For me, it felt fine. I guess it's just kind of not my style. But if you like to wear it that way, it worked great. Again, it was pretty comfortable. It was very well concealed. It hugged right in against the body. The only, one of my issues with it is and it's just a training thing. I'm used to having the magazine or the extra magazine on my offside hand. So when I reload, that's how I train with it. Having them both together on the same side's a little bit different, but I think again, it's just a training issue. If you train with it to work, to make it work that way, I think it would be fine. But overall, just a great little holster combo thing. And Michael, if you when you carry a mag pouch, would you tend to carry it on the opposite side?
Yeah,
or?
I'd carry it on my support side.
So have you ever tried it with both of them together like this?
Not that I recall. I think I used to have a holster a long time ago that had an integrated mag pouch in the holster, but that was I think it was a drop leg. It was a thigh holster. So.
Well, this is nice, though, because like I said, it gives you the option. You could do it either way. You can carry this outside. You could switch it over, carry it inside the waistband on the holster. And like I said, I don't carry that way, but I think it would just be a training thing. If I chose I wanted to carry that way, I just practice with it.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're competing,
and
you don't have to do it. And it doesn't have to be lickety-split, getting a new mag in there.
Yeah, so like I said, it's just a matter of getting used to it or training. Yeah. But yeah, it works really well, and for $52.99, I think it's priced really well as well. It feels really solid. I mentioned earlier the clips here, and these clips actually, I don't want to say it's a bad thing. I mean, they feel actually pretty solid. I think they'd be just fine. But my tendency is if I don't see metal clips, I'm thinking, okay, I don't know how long is this going to last. But like we were saying before, I mean, even if it turned out they didn't or they did fail, it's got a lifetime warranty on it. So it probably wouldn't be an issue.
Now, did you use this on the belt that you reviewed a couple weeks ago?
I did. And
it worked well?
It worked perfectly. Like I was saying, the only thing, you want to wear a shirt underneath of it because you've got the, again, kind of this hard plastic edge on there. So, and it wasn't real uncomfortable because I did it both ways. I mean, it wasn't real uncomfortable. Having a shirt on the inside made it better, though. But, yeah, this worked perfectly on that comfort concealment belt. Because, again, it's small. If you look at it, there's hardly any profile to this thing.
Oh, yeah. I
mean, it's really tiny. The clips work really well. They grab really nicely, and there's a nice lip underneath them, so they grab the bottom of the belt. And it pretty much stayed where I put it. And like I said, I think because it's so small, because sometimes with these kinds of holsters, they're bigger out here on the sides, and you feel it more.
Right.
This one, it's just tiny. You don't feel it at all. So.
What'd you say you're carrying in that?
A Glock 19 in this one. So this
I've
is
heard
what
of
I got it sized for. And yeah, it worked really well. I don't know what else to say about it. What's interesting though?
How much?
$52.99, which
Is
again
that
for
each?
for the combo for both of these.
For the combo, okay.
Yeah, so I mean the price point is great. I think it's most of the stuff I have is about that or more. So.
And the manufacturer is
Bravo Concealment.
Is that different from the other one?
Going to ask me one I don't know.
I know.
Yeah, the other one was Comfort Concealment.
No.
So,
Bravo. What's his name?
I know the one you're talking about.
What's his name's company?
Bravo something. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it different?
I think
company?
so. Yeah.
Can you put a second magazine?
You can. and it works.
Like you can make a whole ring of them.
Works
if you
the same way. I suppose you could. They if you look on their videos on their website, they've got I think 3 different videos, and they show you just exactly how to pull them apart. It's really easy. You just unscrew these. There's a washer though, a rubber washer inside of them between the 2 pieces that you want to make sure you don't lose. And sometimes you got to finagle it around a little bit to get it to work or to get it in there. But no, they actually did they do that on the video? They may have strung 2 of these together. But you could certainly do that.
It looks like the fact that I mean, I don't know why you would do it, but if you just were so inclined, it looks like you could.
Some people like to carry 2 spares.
Right.
So, again, this isn't Bravo Company, Larry Vickers' company, right?
No.
This is a different
Bravo Concealment.
Bravo Concealment. All right, gotcha.
So, so where was I at here? So, you can link those 2 things together. And some people, I guess if you're carrying a smaller gun, maybe a single stack gun or something, you might want 2. And like on my 1911 holster, I've got a mag pouch that's for 2.
Or maybe do they make a flashlight pouch too? Maybe that might be something.
That could, I didn't look on there for that, but it's possible. But I like how it's nice and modular. Though you can do a lot of stuff with this. What's interesting too on their 3 videos, though, that again they have all these petite little guys on there. So the thing slides in, slides out, looks great. They don't have any manly guys on there. But
manly, that's the
like
good.
that. Yeah.
But I tried it, and like I said, it was comfortable with me. It worked fine. Like I said, it conceals well too. I think.
Did you drive a car with it on?
Did I?
Because when you're in a car, some of your extremities have a tendency to pinch and roll.
Yeah, and I don't think I did drive with this one on. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I did. But again, that's a matter of placement for me. So it's just a matter of how far around the side of your hip do you put the thing.
I'd have to put mine under my chin.
Because I do that. Like I said, normally I carry outside the waistband. When I do carry inside the waistband, it's just a matter of where you position the thing. But this is, again, this is small. I wouldn't think this would be any kind of issue at all. Because this is, I bet this is almost half the size of the clinger inside the waistband that I would typically wear if I was wearing inside the waistband. This is much smaller, and that one's fine sitting in the car. So I imagine this one would be pretty good too. So anyway, that's what we got here.
You just got it online?
It is. It's on bravoconcealment.com. So they have a really nice website. They've got several videos showing you, how to put these things together, how to take them apart. It's nice that it is modular like this too, because like I said, I would prefer. I'd probably wear the mag pouch outside. But if for some reason I wanted to put them together and just wear the whole thing inside the waistband, it was fine.
Where are they located?
I don't know. I didn't look, but I have the literature here. You could look while I'm doing
this.
Local,
because we're starting to see more and more accessory companies pop up in the San Diego area. Alamo, Texas.
There we go. Well, it's a little bit closer. I think the Comfort Concealment guys were in Georgia, so we're working our way back this way
on Alamo Road to Boot. So they must be in the Alamo.
There you go. It's got to be a good place. So what else do I want to say about this? I think, like I said, overall, I think it's a great deal. $52. It's definitely worth trying out. If we sold you on the Comfort Concealment belt last week, this thing works great with the Comfort Concealment belt.
So is this going to be your primary, or how often do you think you're going to use this now that you have it?
I will use this whenever I use that Comfort Concealment belt, definitely. So when I'm in shorts and sweats, or sweats, this will be the one I'll go with.
Sweats?
Maybe both, yeah.
Maybe both. Why not?
Do it that way.
So I'll tell you what, why don't I just kind of tell the story? It's been a while, and I'm not sure I've even told it on the radio, but back in 2007, end of 2007, beginning of 2008, my wife and I and another couple were out camping and off-roading and shooting in the desert. It was a lot of fun. And a BLM, Bureau of Land Management, law enforcement agent came and harassed us. Tried to arrest me, tried to confiscate a Mossberg 500 shotgun because he said it was an assault weapon.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. So, long story short is, he didn't arrest me. He didn't confiscate him. I proved to him that he didn't understand the law he was trying to enforce, and found out later he didn't even agree with the law that he was trying to enforce. But a government check changes everything. So he was ready to arrest me, and that bummed me out. That and the reaction when I got back and talked to some of my coworkers and friends and said, "Hey, here's what I did over the weekend," and I got harassed by law enforcement. They kind of looked at me like, "Well, wow, what were you doing? Why'd you have guns?" But one thing, I don't know if I've ever even said this, but I had an AR with me, and it was actually in a different location. He found that shotgun before he found the AR, and looking back, I've always wondered what would have happened.
Went into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, it truly. I mean, if he thought that shotgun was scary looking,
you were taking over the world.
If he thought the shotgun was an assault rifle, maybe he wouldn't have known what the
AR was.
It was just an F-15
baseball bat.
So I got involved, and I got involved in the NRA Members Council, and that's a local meeting for NRA members. And meeting number one, I went in and told my story and said, "Hey, I'm here. I'm not a spectator. I want to do this thing." And the second meeting, I was voted the vice president, and there were like 6 guys in the room, and we grew the organization. We grew the following, the membership. We grew the treasury, and did a lot of really good things. But along the way, I wanted to get more and more engaged with politics and politicians and endorsing people, getting them elected, that sort of thing. And the NRA didn't want to do that. So, okay, fine. They're doing their thing. Totally understand. I got more involved with the Republican Party and found out that they have a ton of priorities. The Second Amendment was always kind of their second or third or fourth priority. And, I did my best, and I did a fairly good job of getting them to focus more on Second Amendment issues. But it was made clear, and this is fair and accurate, that, hey, they're not a Second Amendment organization. Mm-hmm. They're an organization, and one of their priorities is the Second Amendment. But, they're also worried about, 20 other different political things. Mm-hmm. Talked to some of the gun clubs. So I'm working my way through, right? NRA Members Council, Republican Party. Talked to some of the other gun clubs and organizations, and they basically said, we don't want to paint a target on our back. We have these nice club people come out and shoot. We don't want to rock the boat. Like if we just quiet, no one will come and beat us tonight. Yeah. So I'm going through this whole thing. Got involved in some campaigns and whatnot and that sort of thing. And basically, I sat down with a guy named Mark Halcon, who owned American Shooting Center. You remember Mark? And we had lunch and said, let's write this down. What is the problem? And we came up with the problem, and that is still up on our website, on San Diego County Gun Owners website. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, now we have a problem. Now we've defined the problem. What's the solution? And the solution was exactly what everyone sees with San Diego County Gun Owners, which is a group of people, an organized group of people that raises money, that vets candidates, that endorses candidates, that engages with the media, that does all these things to change the culture of for gun owners, but really truly is acting as a sledgehammer in the political world. If you disagree with us, we will replace you. If you agree with us, we will support you. Mm-hmm. We don't do anything on the state or federal level because there are already organizations that are doing things on the state and federal level. We concentrate on the local level. But the idea was, activism before that, when I went to the NRA meetings, the Members Council meetings, it was fun. It was social. We'd have a steak. We got to know some really great people. We'd sign people up to be NRA members, but that was it. We'd do some training a little bit here and there. But we couldn't really. There was a very, thick wall between us and truly getting involved in politics. So, activism was pretty limited back then, and it was hard for us to, get in front of people, going into the media. Interviews were pretty much a no-no. And that's radio, TV, etc. Now, when we created San Diego County Gun Owners, I wanted to create a vehicle where people could be empowered to do things. And Gun Owners Radio is an offshoot of San Diego County Gun Owners, Lance Pelkey, and we had breakfast together, Dave,
mm-hmm.
and
I was all for it.
You were 120% for it. 1,000% for it. And I'm like, geez, I don't know. I've never been on the radio before. I have no idea how this works. I'm kind of scared. So
now we can't turn him off.
Now
right?
You can't shut me up. But Joe is somebody you called me, right after, I think it was after our second dinner, and said, hey, I want to be involved, or maybe it was after our first dinner.
Yeah, I think it was. What was the dinner on the Midway?
It was after our first dinner then.
Okay, so it was right after that. And the way it happened was I was volunteering at the Western Days Parade in Lakeside, which we do every year. And I ran in the course of like 20 minutes. I ran into two different couples that said, "Yeah, we were at this the Second Amendment dinner the other night," and I had just gotten back into guns at that point. So I asked Frank Hilliker about that. I said, "Hey, what was that?" So he said, "Oh, here's the guy you got to call," and he gave me your number. And I called, just wanted to get involved, and I got sucked right into the board, and we went from there.
But the idea is, this is a vehicle for people to get as involved. You choose your level of involvement. And I remember, Joe, you and I went and interviewed, so we were looking for some pro-Second Amendment attorneys. Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And we ran into some guy who was he was like a divorce attorney or whatever. And I remember we're walking out, and you were like, "All right, so what else can we do? I mean, is this just you running around doing stuff, or put me to work?" I said, "Okay, all right. Well, what do you suggest? Now you're writing all our blogs, you're on the radio, you're helping with shooting socials, but this is a vehicle for people to do meaningful activism. We don't muzzle people. I mean, we manage our brand is the term. We manage our brand, and we make sure that our messaging is thoughtful and accurate. But it's a meritocracy. If you want to, if you think to yourself, geez, the Second Amendment organization needs this, this, and this, or the Second Amendment community needs this, this, and this. Well, we're the vehicle to make it happen. And I'm really that just simply didn't exist before. There really wasn't any. Gun shops didn't really know any other. Didn't know other gun shops. There was no cohesion.
No, they were competition.
They were competition.
That's all it was. They didn't want to have nothing to do with it. They didn't want to talk. But you have taken San Diego County gun owners, and you've walked into each and every one of them just about, done a social, done a fundraiser, and it almost makes them look to the other stores. And I think for the better. I think it's made, one of our goals has always been to try to get all the gun stores together so we can work together as a unit.
Right. A high tide raises all ships, right?
Exactly.
So that's what we do. And the funny thing is at the beginning we were reading about a lawsuit is not activism. If you read an article about if you know everything there is to know about a lawsuit, a Second Amendment lawsuit, that's not activism. There's nothing. You're not affecting public policy. So we decided, hey, you know what? There's a lot of organizations that are filing lawsuits. We don't need to do that. We don't need to duplicate that. That's not going to be a part of our goal. But where we have fit in when it comes to lawsuits, we were almost critical of. I used to say all the time that we've put too many eggs in the judicial basket. And frankly, there are a lot of people out there that just kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, well, nothing's going to help, so let's just sue them. And really what they're saying is, I don't want to actually do anything. I don't want to actually let someone else do it. Because there are a lot of effective things you can do that are not lawsuits. The only people that are doing anything in a lawsuit is the plaintiff and the attorney, and fund them and support them. But
look what you've done for concealed carry.
Yeah, well, so the lawsuit before we go into the concealed carry, so we're plaintiffs in a few different lawsuits now, and that's people ask, especially at the beginning, they say, well, how do you work with national organizations? Well, Firearms Policy Coalition organized the lawsuits. Did the lion's share of the funding for the lawsuits, and we lend our, we work with them by being plaintiffs. We raise a little bit of money, but nowhere near what they. I don't want to represent.
And whatever they need you to do,
whatever they need us to do. That's how we work together really, really well. But yeah, the CCW thing was never. I remember having an argument with one of the board members at the very beginning. He wanted to put out the message that we were going to. I forget exactly, but it was along the lines of, hey, we're going to get CCWs in San Diego. And I was like, it's, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. That's a huge
goal
task. Yeah, that's a huge goal. I'm not sure, but we're going to work on it. We're not, it's not our only reason to exist. And now look what we've done. You can get a CCW in San Diego. And it really shows that,
and you
what
got
effect
Not Me San Diego.
Not Me.
That right there is one of your biggest accomplishments.
Truly. And I mean, it spun off Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County gun owners, all three other organizations. But all the things that have happened, NotMESD is the thing I am most proud of. I just think it's such a fantastic idea. I think Wendy is the exact right person to to do everything she's done with it, and I'm so proud of it. But that's what activism is. And step number 1 is joining. Step number 2 is getting involved. If you just don't have the time to get involved and be involved, then pay the $10 a month.
You know what? I came up with another great idea. I'll do this real quick. A friend of mine had passed away, and he had no family. He had nobody. And his endowment to the Automotive Museum was everything he owned, to the tune of over $1 million.
Wow.
There's no reason why somebody that has no family, doesn't have anybody to leave their money to, if you want to give it to the government, fine. Or you can give it to San Diego County gun owners.
Here you go. Don't go home.
So let me take my
We got some other stuff to talk about. We are going to do the Stump My Nephew, though.
All right.
I like that,
one.
right?
Well, I like that one, equally.
Even better.
I just want to see if we can catch this little guy.
I know, right?
All right. Let's try it.
All right. Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. So every week we do Stump My Nephew. Sam is my nephew. And if you send in a letter, if you send in an email, a letter, if you send us
stamp.
if you send us a question that has to do with gun trivia or history, gun history, or marksmanship, or whatever.
If I could send a letter, it'll stand out. We don't get many of those.
That's true. Yeah, if you send a letter, we'll
definitely use that. Right, send a letter.
It's harder to delete. If we use your question, you get a shirt or hat from San Diego County Gun Owners for free. If you stump my nephew, you get a membership to Front Sight, which Sam's been to. How was Front Sight, Sam?
Excellent.
All right. Okay. So here's the question, and this is from Jaime in Encinitas. Jaime wants to know, what did the Daisy Outdoor Company sell before BB guns?
Honestly,
I think
I have no idea.
Little outside the box, but that's still.
I read the answer and I'm going, he's not going to get this.
He's not going to get that. Did you have a Daisy?
Yes, I did.
What'd you have? Do you remember?
I had the Red Ryder.
So did I.
And I had to cut the stock off by 1.5 inches because it was too long for me when I started shooting.
How old were you when you got it?
4.
4.
Yeah, my dad he insisted that I became a very good shot.
Are you going to read the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, you want the answer? You're gonna love.
I'm gonna read it in just a minute. I'm
love,
building up the.
You're gonna love
Did you have?
this.
Now, did you ever have a BB gun, Sam?
Yeah, I didn't really shoot it all that often. I didn't have one when I was very young, and I started shooting real guns before I started shooting BB guns, so it didn't really do anything for me.
All right. Joe, Daisy.
I never got one. My mom always said I would shoot my eye out. So
I had
No, that's the written. Never mind.
What?
So I had the red. I had the Red Ryder. I was like 10 when that came out. What did that come out? 84. So I was like 8, I guess, when that movie came out. When I was 10.
No, they came out way earlier.
Was it earlier than that?
Because I had it when I was a kid.
No. I mean the Christmas Story.
Oh, I thought you
I'm
said
sorry,
Red
going back
Ryder,
to Red Dawn again.
No, I know. Let's go back to. Yeah, Red Dawn was
we're back to
84, and so was A Christmas Story. I believe they both came out the same year. Huge gun movies.
All right, will you
both
give him the answer before he has a heart attack?
Well, let me finish. So I remember they said, "Look, we'll buy you a BB gun because of that movie." I had to wait till I was 10, but I remember telling my mom. She said, "All right, well, what would you like?" We went down to Walmart, and there was a BB gun that was an AR. In an AR, it looked very much like an AR, like very much like an AR. And then there was the Red Ryder. And I said, well, one of these would be great. And she said, well, what would you do with it? And I said, well, if I had the AR, I'd go out and I'd play like I was, in a war and warrior and do this. Made it sound like it was, I was going to do all these things. If I had the Red Ryder, it'd be cool too, but I don't know if I'd do a whole lot. Well, if you're a concerned mom,
what do you think you're going to buy?
Which one are you going to buy? So I talked myself out of the AR. I got a Red Ryder.
You didn't tell her about the birds then. Huh?
I didn't tell her about the birds. I didn't shoot any birds. I had some frogs took a beating.
Oh, we did that with the birds, but my cousin had a BB gun.
Oh, yeah?
Model cars.
I didn't shoot any animals except reptiles. Like I said, I was the scourge of Bay County, Florida when it came to frogs. They got a beating.
Did you ever get in a BB gun war with your buddies?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Tell the truth.
No, well, I was in a BB gun war, but it was my brother and his buddies.
Oh, yeah. Boy,
and
those
so,
things sting.
Yeah, I was too young. I didn't have a BB gun yet.
Just trying to make Sam hang up in disgust, aren't you?
All right, here's the answer. The company Daisy Outdoor Products sold windmills and gave complimentary BB guns with every purchase. The BB guns became so popular that they stopped selling windmills and started selling BB guns. There you go, Sam. Learn something new every day.
Windmills, huh?
Windmills.
I had no idea.
Do you have any interesting trivia on windmills?
No, that's pretty far outside my area of knowledge.
All right. Well, we stumped you. I owe Jaime
you do
a membership to Front Sight.
Yeah, you do.
So, all right, Sam. Good job, man.
Not to worry, man.
Are you going to be on? So next week is 4th of July. Are you available? Are you going to be on?
I might not be able to. I'll have to hash that out with you later.
Later. You don't want to tell people what you're doing?
Well, no. We'll have to I don't know, figure it out.
Okay. All right.
Keep him in line. What do you got?
It's cool. I know what you're going to be doing. It's kind of cool. You don't want to talk about
it?
Oh.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right, Sam.
I'll talk to you soon.
The abuse you take. All right.
So last week we went up to Orange County. Wendy and I went up to Orange County, had a ton of meetings, had our monthly meeting up there. One in particular that was very interesting. We met with a guy named Gene James, who's on the city council for San Clemente. San Clemente just passed their sanctuary city deal resolution.
Oh.
And he was the guy that authored it and pushed it through. And we had a really, really great conversation with him. And we had a number of great conversations. A couple of gun shops that want to host the meetings. You know, everything that's happening in San Diego that we were just talking about in the last segment is really starting to come together in Orange County. It's looking really, really cool.
Now, was he a Second Amendment sanctuary city?
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't say that.
I didn't say that part. So,
no. Second Amendment. And I'm going, well, what kind of interesting conversation could you have with this guy?
Second Amendment sanctuary city. San Clemente is a Second Amendment sanctuary city, which is great. It's a great statement. You know, it doesn't mean – and, well, by the way, so he said, well, why don't we meet at my office? He gave me an address. The office was a bar. So –
was it really?
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I already liked the guy. So Wendy and I are hanging out with him, and no sooner do we sit down, guy comes up, guy in the bar comes up to him and just was, oh my gosh, thank you so much. The vote, the sanctuary, the Second Amendment, guns are so important, just gushes right there over him. Oh, that's so great, so great. And I said, does that happen a lot? And he said, yeah. He said, I was pumping gas yesterday at the gas station, and a couple people pulled up and thanked me. And we had a nice long conversation about how, he got a couple of, hate emails.
Sure.
Gee, you're a jerk. How could you stand up for the Constitution like that? But, the amount of people who came out of the woodwork and said, this is awesome. When you stand up for what people believe in, they get passionate about it. People don't get passionate about, bond issues. And unfortunately, the Republican Party has retreated into, just talking about tax issues. We want politicians to vote the right way on tax issues. Maybe, we all have different opinions on spending and tax and all that other good stuff. But the reality is, people don't get passionate about that. People simply don't get passionate about that. When they do bring up an issue that people are passionate about, they're rewarded time and time again, And Joe, you've seen that. We've seen that. We see it all the time. People, well, gee, I don't know if I want to talk about this. And wah. We have to, drag them over the finish line sometimes to get them to, and then, by the way, what's the saying that, success has many parents and failure is an orphan, right?
Yes.
So you drag them over the finish line. They do something good for the Second Amendment, and they, people, pour out the praise, and all of a sudden they're like, well, yeah, it's important to me or whatever. Okay, whatever. We had to, we really had to convince you how important it was to you.
Hope your neck doesn't hurt from me putting you in a headlock.
But the meeting on Thursday was awesome. We had 50 people at this meeting, and it's really, really, truly coming together in Orange County. I'm really, really happy to see it. And
are you going to have a San Clemente County gun on?
Well, San Clemente's in Orange County.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we were meeting with him up there. But in a lot of ways, Orange County is very much like San Diego. So there's no reason they won't, demographically and economically very much like San Diego. So there's no reason they're not going to be just as successful as San Diego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those things are good. I think, the sanctuary city things, even though, like we said before, okay, they don't have any teeth. I guess they can't do anything with it. But it's good to stand up, and it's good to make a statement, and it's good because it shows other people that okay, leaders really are standing up and they're doing what they can do, and they're going to push, and maybe it'll inspire other people to do some more, and they'll get some better ideas, and they can do some more stuff.
Or maybe I'll move there.
Amen.
Could be.
Stranger things.
You mentioned things that are dear to your heart. I think did you just say that a few minutes ago?
Did I say dear to my heart?
Something like that.
All right.
I'm getting old now.
We weren't
so I
talking
forget
about
quickly.
Newskies.
No, I wanted to tell you though that I actually watched Red Dawn last week.
You bring that up now? We only have 1 minute and a half.
Exactly why. Yes.
How was it?
It was everything I expected it to be. So
what does that mean?
Outstanding.
What does that mean? Everything I expected.
I watched it, but I was you described it as a life-changing movie for you anyway when you saw it.
Yes.
And my 17-year-old life-changing movie was The Enemy Below, which you should watch this week with Robert Mitchum.
Oh, that's
awesome. Find out about that next week.
It's easier to change an 8-year-old's life or 10-year-old's
life.
That's true. I was 17. It cost me 6 years watching Robert Mitchum, so I went to Navy.
Oh, I see.
There we go. Mr. Roberts is the way I want to go. Hey, if you're listening on the YouTube podcast, hit the like and subscribe button. Share the show with as many friends as you can. And please support all our great sponsors: San Diego County Gun Owners, U.S. Law Shield, the Dillon Law Group, CL1, PRMI Mortgage, Black Hound Optics, National Concealed Carry Association. I want to thank Joe Dramisi, Michael Schwartz, Sam the Gunman, and that digital dude meister, Brendan Thomas. And don't forget Bob Siegel's right around the corner. Don't touch that dial. And go to gunownersradio.com for podcast latest information and questions. Or if you want to throw us a bucket load of money, we're here for you. Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The answer.
This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl.
KCBQ, San Diego, K241CT, Oceanside, FM 96.1, North County, and